Hey guys, how are you? It's been 3 weeks. I can't believe it. It's been 3 weeks since I've done a video, and I apologize for the duration. And so many of you on your own have reached out to me to ask how I'm doing. So I know it's time to do another video. Can you believe this is going to be my 70th video? I'm pretty sure I'm on 70, which is amazing. And thank you all of you for staying so connected and watching all of them. And my hair, as you can tell, let's get the elephant out of the room here. It's coming back, folks, and it's starting to grow in, and that feels really good just to kind of start to feel normal. I still have some balder spots, but in general, that's just such progress forward and feels so good. So I want to start a little bit with a medical update with you guys, let you know how things are going. So about a month ago, when I went in to get chemo, we talked, I may have said this in the last video, but just to reiterate, we talked with our oncologist, and she shared a couple things. One, that there is a new, let me step back and say this. I think you all know now, I've made the decision to do chemo maintenance. Chemo maintenance is kind of a defrayed amount of chemo. It's not the highest dosage you could get, but it's basically, they kind of run the gamut of like wanting to give you as much as you can take, because the more chemo that you take, hopefully the more the cancer goes away. On the other hand, you don't necessarily need the highest portion of it, and if you can reduce the portion of it on duration wise, you could feasibly do more of it. Chemo maintenance, the plan is to keep doing it until I find another drug, and so there's no end date to it. It's just going to be every 2 weeks on a Tuesday or Wednesday is chemo, and that is what it is. And I chose this, right? So just as a reminder for those of you who don't remember, I had the option to do a surgery or to do this. And even my surgeon felt that if I didn't do the surgery, I may end up dying from this. So I really did spend, November, December, and the beginning of January imagining what, only living for one more year would be like. I mean, it is terrifying and scary. But then, as you all know, I made the decision when I got back to work in January. I took a week or two off for the holidays. I said, you know what? I don't want to do the surgery. I want to go down the clinical trial route, and that's the route I'm doing. So I chose this. It's not without its own, fears like anything else, but I'm really happy about the fact that this is my path, and I chose this path. Cancer has changed so much about me. It has transformed who I am. It basically has just removed this kind of convoluted shell that I've built to protect myself and to be accepted in society. Going through chemo, I had to break that shell. Just broke. I didn't break it. It just broke. I didn't have the energy to actually hold it up and keep pretending to be something I'm not. What I'm realizing is the way I acted before was very, in truth, very much who I am. So the way I work at work or how I work with people, a lot of that stuff hasn't changed. What's really different, though, is I find myself being more gentle with myself, giving away or not spending precious time on beating myself up when I do something wrong. Great example today. I had chemo set for tomorrow every 2 weeks. And this morning, I got a call at 8:30 and was like, hey, you're supposed to be here for chemo. And I forgot. I didn't forget. I just misread it and thought it was Wednesday because the last how many treatments have been on Wednesday. So it didn't register. And, I had immediate, nasty talk to myself that was just like, why would you do this? And this is so bad. But Brian really helped me pretty quickly within 30 seconds. It was like, look, you're human. You make mistakes. We called. They can take you, and it's fine. And that's so true. So, I just think cancer collectively has transformed how I feel about myself, how I think about myself, how I engage with the world. But a lot of those engagements that I had before were loving, teamwork, friends, corporate things, and a lot of those things are things I can still do, and they feel great, and they still feel very authentic to me. And I should say, before cancer, I felt, I remember people would say to me when I was at work and feeling, questioning whether or not I should stay, and, do people think I'm doing a good job? I had someone share with me, I think it was a family member, say, well, maybe you have imposter syndrome. And when I looked it up, the words matter so much. They did not register for me because I was being myself. I had many authentic moments. But I think part of what it was is I was in an organization that didn't honor the things that were most important to me. And I had reported to people at this company that did understand what mattered to me, or at least I was inspired by them to so many degrees, that whether or not the larger part of the organization I engaged with or not, whether they kind of reacted to me in the right way or not, it wasn't as important because I reported directly into people that I respected. And, it's almost like if a random person on the street says something mean to you, it might hurt your feelings a little bit. But if that's like somebody you admire and respect, well, that's a very different set of impacts. So, as people say, you should only be asking for feedback from those people you admire and respect, right? So anyway, so cancer has really helped in my transformation very much. And I'm super, super grateful for that. I, physically, I had chemo 2 weeks ago. When you're, like, I would say for me, when I was optimized in kind of the optimal response after chemo was 2 days after chemo, I'd get the pump removed. The day after, that night I'd be tired. The day after, I'd be really tired. The following day, I would start to feel better, and so on and so forth. Every day, get better, 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 all the way up. But my last chemo, I really felt it for closer to 7 days. And it's hard when you feel it for so long. So anyway, I went in today, as I mentioned. That was a little bit of a surprise because I thought I was going in yesterday, but everything was fine. We can accommodate you. I went in, I got my blood work done. They connected me to my port, which they do, and then they take the blood draw from that. Want to make sure the port is working, but then they take blood samples, and basically the oncologist reads that and determines whether or not you're eligible and you're healthy enough to receive chemo, because it's intense. Unfortunately, today I was told that my platelet numbers are way too low and I'm not eligible for chemo today. So this isn't a forever thing, of course. It's just a short-term thing. And I think we made the decision to give it 2 weeks, I think. And we'll give it 2 weeks and just basically pick up where we left off in terms of our cadence. And, I think what a beautiful gift that the universe gave me, because, the last couple of days I've been saying, God, I'm still so tired from everything. So, my body knew, and that test said what the test said, and so there you go. So I actually count this as a win. It's a nice thing to be given the blessing by the oncologist to take a little break, and happy to take a little break. So that's a good thing there. In terms of what I'm learning right now, I wanted to share this amazing experience that I had last week. And it's just around being social and kind of being out and about and being with people you care about and people who love you and honor and accept you for where you are. It's so important going through this. I mean, when I go back 4.5 years and I think back to the beginning of getting the diagnosis and, even losing my daughter at 19 weeks, for those of you that maybe don't recall this or it's newer, I was pregnant. I was 18 weeks pregnant, and then unfortunately I had to give birth to my daughter, and she didn't survive. It was way too early to survive. So I was kind of in like zombie depressive land for 4 or 5 weeks. And then I started to get my right ovary, kind of my right side started to have pain. I didn't know what it was. Went back to the OBGYN and they identified my right ovary. It was 5 times the size. Met with an oncologist, did a bunch of tests. And they said, you definitely have stage 4 cancer. We don't know what kind. Did all the tests and found out it was colon cancer. And, you know, the beginning was so terrifying. I mean, I don't think I literally was like, I guess I'm going to die from this. How could this be? This is crazy. I have all this other stuff to do. And this was the month of September. Then when we had surgery, the debulking surgery where they actually remove organs and etc. When I awoke from that, it was like high fives all around. Like we really nailed it. And then 4 or 5 weeks after that, I started my 12 rounds of chemo. So, you know, and throughout the last 4.5 years, I've definitely had, and many of them are recorded on here, and so many of you have seen them, emotional up and downs relative to what I'm going through. I've also had emotional reaction to what my physical body is going through. Like, I think I'm in a good spot right now physically, but through the years, like, because I went into menopause and, you know, I gained a bunch of weight right away, trying to find the right foods, didn't feel good. My hair just was like, you know, my mom had passed in 2016 from complications of Alzheimer's, and I'd look in the mirror and see my mom's hair before she died. Like, you know, and it just felt like I kept looking at myself in the mirror and imagining I was dying. And it was just like scary. It's all these things that were like super scary. Over the last 4.5 years, you know, when I'm on leave or short-term disability or whatever to kind of like recuperate from treatment, etc., you know, I don't generally go see people. And part of it is I don't really feel like it. I know I'm a very social person on a regular basis, but, you know, I don't want to have to make you feel better too if I'm not feeling better, because I think sometimes what happens in these situations, and I share it with you guys, like not as a negative, but I've observed it. Sometimes what's happening is all these people that love you don't know what to do. And so in lieu of not knowing what to do, they do all sorts of things. You know, how can I help you? And you guys have probably seen sometimes, like when, you know, people say something bad has happened, like the best advice is just do what you do best. And, you know, if you're a baker, bake something. If you're a florist, make flowers, you know, put flowers together, etc. But I think it's just interesting, you know, when sometimes when we hang out with people, it's just that I don't think I'm even conscious about it, but I think I feel like I have to try to pretend things are okay. And, you know, nobody's asked me to do that, by the way. That's just a me thing. And so I think sometimes when I'm at my worst, which is also a post-trauma response from when I was little, you know, the safest place is just to be alone, and that's what I did. So this past fall in particular, I was kind of a physical shut-in. I mean, the exception of going to appointments, I didn't, and walking outside my house, I didn't leave the house. And, you know, it was a very dark time for me. And I think it's just because it felt like all the signs were, you're not going to make it. And it's like, how do you process that? You keep fighting if you think you're not going to make it? Like, what the hell? How do you handle it? So this fall was really tough. You guys know a lot of this stuff. I've shared them on the videos. And thank you, all of you, for just your constant support throughout this, because it's been amazing, and you've all helped me so much. Just even checking in and how you doing is just great. So anyway, so I wanted just to share this amazing thing this weekend. It's simple, and, you know, it can be big, but could also be very simple. This is the year I turned 50. So my high school friends and I, girlfriends, my closest girlfriends, there's 5 of us, have been talking about doing something this year, you know, turning 50. And I knew my immune system was pretty not great going through chemo so much. So I said, look, I'm not sure I could fly anywhere. Like, you guys just go, and, like, you know, it's fine. And, you know, one of them lives in South Carolina, and one lives in Florida, and one lives in Philly, and one lives in Maryland, and I live in Connecticut. So, you know, Connecticut in February is not kind of the place you want to go. But I love my girlfriends so much, and I'm grateful to them for saying, screw this, we'll come to you. And we rented a really beautiful beach house because it's, it's the cold right now. No, it's not as expensive. We got to take walks on the beach. We sang and we danced was some of my favorite parts. We told stories. We did arts and crafts. We just had so much fun together. And I didn't realize how much I needed 4 days of laughing. Like really the laughter, it like broke something open in me in a good way, in a real good way. And it's also really nice to be around people that accept you for who you are, even if you don't accept yourself. Like I still had those moments that I remembered back in like high school where I'm like, oh, I said this, like maybe they didn't like it. Are they mad at me? Like, not 100 moments of that, but just a couple here and there. And I'm like, you're 50, who cares? And, you realize no, nobody's mad at you. And it's just you making it up. But these women, paid money, went out of their way, like to do, this is an event we want to do together, but to ensure I could be there. And that is just pure generosity and love. And, this thing is so scary and you just don't know what's going to happen. When I made the decision at the beginning of the year to not do the surgery, I also said, I want to have more fun this year. I want to go on trips. I want to do things and I want to live life because I don't know what next year brings, or the next year, or 5 years, or 10 years, 20 years, hopefully 50 years I'll be here. But we just don't know what the next year brings. And, my tired from the weekend, sure, you could see nice little, beautiful, well-earned bags under my eyes. But I loved it so much and I'll cherish it forever because it's just a reminder to me, like all of you remind me I'm not alone, but to physically sit with people for 4 days straight and just to be part of it, it's lovely. It's also, I think, the best lesson that I can impart on you guys, and that is, being with people is really important. I think as human beings, we need the connective tissue. We need the connection. We need the laughter. We need those things. Because you know what? I'm emotionally happier than I was even a week ago, and I wasn't in a bad headspace. And, I've got some things in front of me still, and I kind of wish I didn't, but I do. And I'm glad to know I have my friends by my side to give me laughter. And if you want to know what you could do for me, send me laughter. Send me laughter. Send me funny things. It's honestly a sweet spot. Or send me leadership stuff, because you guys all know I love that. There's a lot going on in this world right now. A lot to be afraid of. A lot of fear. And I think I've shared it on this before, but I was taught in my 20s by a woman that I admired, a mentor to me at work, that, in this world, all kind of, let's say, the good emotions, happiness and caring and fun, except whatever, funny, like all of those at core all boil down to love as the core emotion. And then if you were to look at anger and frustration and greed or greedy and etc., underneath all of that is fear. It's just fear. Now, all of us are humans. We're going to deal with love and fear through the rest of our lives. It's not to eliminate the things that make you afraid. The real clutch play is for you to identify what you're really afraid of. And the Stoics say, Marcus Aurelius as a famous Stoic, but as the Stoics say, that thing you're afraid of is the thing you have to do. And that is the way. So I just want all of us to remember, even in this fearful environment that's happening right now, and I don't care, I'm just going to say this because I think it's important to say this is what matters to me, and I'm working on just being truthful and putting it out there. I have friends that voted for Trump, and I have friends that voted for Kamala. And as far as I'm concerned, these are people I love. And I'm not going to be mad at you for who you voted for. You have a right to vote for whoever you want to vote for in this country, as long as it's still a democracy. You know, it is scary because there's a lot happening right now that indicates we may not have a democracy for much longer. And change is probably the thing we can bank on. There will be things that, you know, probably all of us will have to do to fight for the thing that matters to us, right? To ensure our families are safe and, I don't know, benefits we need or things about our kids or our own health. You know, they paused all the federal funding to cancer and clinical trials. That's the way I'm going to live. So, you know, at some point, you know, maybe there's something I want to say about that. But what I would really encourage this community to do is just to remember that who you vote for is a very, very small part of who you are. Who the person across from you voted for is a very small portion of who they are. If you're my friend, I'd love for you to get curious with me. Hey, you know, if you voted for so-and-so, can you tell me a bit more why? None of us are 100% right, guys, by the way. None of us. You can be right based off how you feel, but it's not like you can say all those people were wrong and I was right. You could say it feels better, but you don't have the data to actually make that kind of a statement. And there's so many things that are going on right now that are very frustrating to me politically. But what I'm going to choose to do moving forward is just keep bringing love. Keep bringing that love. That's what I'm going to keep doing. Keep encouraging you, me, all of us. Remind all of us that the thing we control is what's going on up here. If you're feeling terror right now about something, terror is not necessarily going to give you the best answer. It may get you motivated to do something pretty fast. But just a reminder, how you feel, you're entitled to feel. And know my role is going to be just keep bringing more love to this channel and to the world as best I can. I feel like it's part of my mission and my values, and that's what I hope to bring. So encourage you to do the same if it feels good for you, and if it doesn't, don't worry about it. I hope there's something out of what you heard today that could serve you well. Know I love you, and I'm proud of you for doing what you need to do. And if you need love or support in some way, you know where I'm at. Thank you, my friends and family and coworkers and everybody that watches and supports me. I love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And here's for 2 weeks off of chemo. So, yay! Love you all. Be well. Talk to you soon.